Okay, we'll get started here if that works. Welcome to Lower Yellowstone's 88th annual meeting. And as a courtesy, we would ask you to silence your cell phones at this time. Let's give Jerry and Judy Foss and their staff a good applause for that wonderful meal they had again this year. And I'd like to thank Greg Wheeler for the audio and video for our meeting tonight from Basin Electric. And on behalf of our board and staff, thank you for joining us both in person or online. We'll be giving a $50 bill credit to those who stay through the entire business meeting, both in person and online. It'll be reflected on your July power bill. Thanks again for attending. I'm Al Thiessen, Lower Yellowstone Board Chair, and I officially call the meeting to order. At this time, I'll call on Jim Vitt to do some honors here.
We'd like to recognize all and thank all of our veterans and service people that are with us tonight. If you'd please stand to be recognized. Now would you everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, and invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jesse. Very well done. You will be hearing from her again later on this evening. Okay, now we will have the invocation. If everybody would just please bow their heads for a little bit. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking that you guide our thoughts and actions so we may have a successful meeting for our cooperative. Bless and keep safe our members, employees, and directors in the coming year. We pray these things in your name. Amen. Amen.
This time I'd like to introduce our attorney, Gene Four, to present the determination of the quorum, the notice of the meeting, and the proof of mailing.
Thank you, Alan. Good evening and welcome. Notice of the annual meeting was mailed to all members, published on the cooperative website, and published in the monthly publication. I have proof of the mailing from the secretary showing the notice of the meeting and annual report were sent, if anybody wants to see that. On behalf of the board this evening, I am pleased to report that there are 405 members present in person or online tonight, which is not only sufficient to transact business on behalf of the board for this 88th annual meeting, but also I would note a record, certainly for the last decade in which I've been involved. So welcome and thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce the board of directors. Representing District 1 is Jim Vitt. And this District 2 is Colin Gardner. District 3 is Tim Franzen. District 4, Dennis Smear. District 5 is Dennis Nelson. District 6 is Greg Rauschendorfer. And I represent District 7. Greg couldn't be here tonight. He represents all the co-ops on the Montana on a supply cooperative called RISCO. And he's attending a meeting in Minneapolis and unable to be with us due to that commitment. So he recorded a little video earlier, and we're going to play that at this time.
Greetings from Minneapolis, where I'm attending the Rural Electric Supply Cooperative RESCO board meeting. RESCO supplies electrical components to RECs like Lower Yellowstone and investor-owns in 8 states: Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, North South Dakota, and Wisconsin. Making up the board is a manager-director and a director-director from each of these 8 states. Ty Williams, manager of Southeast Electric in Ekalaka, and myself represent Montana. The electric utility industry is being challenged in areas due to barely enough generation and transmission to deliver these electrons to the REC members and customers of all utilities, mainly due to the COVID-era manufacturing setback, which they are now playing catch-up, and government regulations and restrictions to develop generation from all of the above energy resources. I feel it is necessary to attend this meeting to represent the needs of cooperative members around the state and others, keeping us at the top of the supply list. Without getting deeper into the woods on this subject, I wish you all an enjoyable and informative annual meeting. You are in good hands with the board members present and Jason and his very committed and knowledgeable staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. You do a good job for us. At this time, I'll introduce the special guests we have here this evening, and it's hard for me to see with these lights glaring in my face, so wave your hand or stand or whatever. Jessica Thompson is here from Mid-Yellowstone Electric Co-op. Mark Lambrecht is here from MECA, or Montana Electric Co-op Association. And Kenny Rowlandson's here from Mid-Yellowstone. Blaine Jorgensen's here from Montreal Williams in Upper Missouri. And Alex Vornas is here from Montreal Williams. He's their general manager. Eric Anderson's here from CFC. Christy Hoffer is here from HDR Engineering. And Frankie Shields is here from HDR. Richard Pinkerton is here from Mid-Yellowstone as well, director there. And Joe Schiffer from Mid-Yellowstone. And Dwayne Crabb is here from the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Co-ops. So thank you all for coming as well. This time I'm going to ask Jason to give his CEO report.
Well, thank you, Alan, and everyone, welcome to the annual meeting. Gene is right. This is one of the largest crowds we've had in a few years, so it's nice to see you blew in here today. I'm gonna start my report out a little different than what I've done in the past. You hear me talk a lot about the 7 cooperative principles and what we have achieved by following those principles every year. You know, but one thing we don't talk a lot about is our mission statement. I don't know how many of you actually look at our mission statement on our website and that, but the board uses that every month in our board meetings when we're discussing many topics. And so tonight I'm going to go through the mission statement and piece by piece with you. So on the screen you see the Lower Yellowstone mission statement, which states Lower Yellowstone's mission is to serve our members with safe, reliable, and affordable electricity. So let's break that down with the first one being safety. Safety is a goal that the employees must put at the very top of their list every day. I am proud of how our employees have prioritized the safety meetings and measures while serving our members at the highest level. But safety doesn't stop with our employees. It extends to the membership as well. We do our best to ensure that the members are informed about the safety hazards of electricity and that everyone respects electricity. And I encourage you to take time to read our safety bulletins on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter pages, and watch the videos that are posted on there almost weekly. And then finally, I'd like you to participate in our safety demonstrations, which we would have had our safety demonstration trailer out here today if the wind wasn't blowing. It's a little hard to do that. And talk with the line workers and the people who are putting on those demonstrations about what you see daily, what you should stay away from. It's good to interact with us. So by doing that, we're working together. And we put together a safety culture then from not only the co-op employees, but through our membership as well. This will help us achieve the high standard for the future generations and plays a role in our reliability in the grid. Reliability. That is the next initiative in our statement. We take a lot of pride in the strides we've made towards enhancing the reliability in our system. Through strategic investments and innovative initiatives, we've continued to modernize the infrastructure, ensuring a dependable service for your homes, your farm, and your businesses. This past year, we energized the Hunter substation. As I reported last year, this station is needed due to the growth we have experienced between our Sioux Pass substation and the Noli substations, which you can see on the map here. The Hunter station will not only support the new growth, but it has allowed us to update numerous distribution circuits and devices in that area to increase the reliability to the members, and it gives us a nice backup option. With the Hunter substation now commissioned, we will be decommissioning the Sioux Pass station. It won't happen immediately, but over time, you will see that substation change into probably more of a switching yard for us. We continue to see growth in many areas of our system, from north to south, south to north. And we will be communicating to the members as we upgrade and build our new facilities, because as we do this, we will have to take short outages here and there, but we're going to try to be ahead of the game and always let you know. This past year, we completed numerous conversion and upgrade projects from overhead to underground on many of our power lines. Along with those improvements, though, we continue to maintain the system with pole checking, asset inspections, and metering updates. All of these investments play a huge role in that reliability, but it's not just our poles and wires and substations that we should think about when it comes to reliability. Because of the technology we utilize today, it's vital that we have reliability in our cybersecurity protocols and our software. Our amazing IT staff work hard behind the curtain to keep this communication and control of our system secure on a daily basis. And this past year, we completed Level 1 of NRECA's Rural Cyber Gold program. The measures that were implemented during this program will help Lower Yellowstone protect the grid from cyber threats, which is vital to the reliability of the system. Lower Yellowstone is among the first 30 co-ops of over 900 that completed this cyber goal. Plus, we are probably one of the smallest. We continue to see the steady growth in 2024 right now and are planning that same growth in 25. And we have numerous projects scheduled across our system to update and build new infrastructure to ensure that high reliability to all members. Affordability is our final objective in our mission statement. Affordability certainly means keeping the cost low and controlling that for that essential economy commodity we call electricity. And I am proud of the board and staff who worked very hard for every member of this co-op through the education of rate philosophy, financial policy development, and they ensure that the co-op's costs stay in check with the rates. But affordability doesn't stop with the co-op finances. There are other huge pressures on the rates from the outside sources that our board and staff cannot control alone. The attack on the baseload generation in recent years is putting affordability at risk for all Americans. Alan will be reporting soon here on the power supply from Basin Electric and WAPA, but just to remind you, there is a true attack on the stability of this baseload generation that we currently have. It's going to cost all members in the rates. In our cooperative, we will always look for ways to make our core business more efficient and control those costs. The mission statement is one our board and staff work toward every day, but we will all need to work together with the cooperative members to make sure the approach to the future baseload generation is an all-of-the-above generation solution for our country. If we do this, those objectives in that mission statement of supplying safe, reliable, and affordable power will be achieved. So now I'd like to introduce the faces of the cooperative who serve the members daily, and they play a large role in the three objectives I just laid out in our mission statement. And they are right on time. If you remember last year, we had a little problem with this, so we actually practiced. All right, so as they're filing in, I'm going to start. You can see we got a long line here today. I'm going to start at the far end out there. Chris Hilsland, he is our COO. Pam Wilcoxon is our CFO. Jamie Prop is our member service manager. Corey Candy is our CIO. Marco Zato, our building coordinator. Melissa Buckley, plant accountant. Tiffany Henches is our CSR. We got Kelly Kaiser, operations manager. Kevin Goff is our operations assistant. Justin King is our warehouse supervisor. And I think I seen Aaron come in. Is Aaron here? Aaron is here. Aaron Idy, journeyman line worker. Aaron and Tanner, who was the next journeyman line worker, were out on an outage not that long ago, just a few hours ago. So didn't know if they were going to make it or not. We got Kyle Kavanaugh, IT director. Eric McPherson, system controller. Bo Kindop is our easement GIS tech. Jeremy Reese is the IT tech. Mike Eberling is our mechanic. Dan Gieser is our energy management supervisor. Edwin Gatsky, line locator. Richard Tremblay is another energy management supervisor. Lee Alstead is one of our mechanics. Ryder Peterson, journeyman line worker. Jesse Oberfell, journeyman line worker. Brandon Mueller, electrician, some days. Brian Frank, journeyman line worker. Cole Jankowski is a journeyman line worker. Lee Delp, apprentice line worker. Preston Long, apprentice line worker. Trey Skeppens, apprentice line worker. Jory Bell, apprentice line worker. Tom Hall, he's our GIS specialist. Dennis Fine is our summer help. And Braden Kindop is our new IT tech, but he is at a training currently. Now, I think through this whole thing, I missed one person, what, right? Can anyone guess who I missed? Every year we have a little thing. Rich Gordy is employed with us. I'll just say that. No, he's a journeyman line worker. Would you please give them all a round of applause? Okay, so I'm going to ask the employees to exit, and there's a few that are going to come up on stage with me now. Oh, didn't use the step even. Okay, can you move down this way? Thank you. So usually I've surprised these guys and didn't tell them, but I was nice this year and I told them they were going to have to come up on stage and be in front of the bright lights, and as I give out a few awards. So the first three you see on your screen are our 5-year awards. They're Cole Jankowski, Lee Delp, and Jeremy Reese. Now, for the 10-year awards, we have Edwin Gatsky, Ryder Peterson, Justin King, and Tanner Roth. Oh, there, you got the right name, Ryder. Congratulations. Tanner, congratulations. And, I got to change the PowerPoint here. Finally, we got 2 guys. I don't know how they did this, but they wore the same shirt tonight. It's amazing. But Jim Vitt and Dennis Nelson have been with us for 10 years. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So as they're going back, I must mention our shared service. As you have heard for the past 8 years, Lower Yellowstone and Mid Yellowstone have worked together with employees in many ways. And this relationship continues to evolve today. As of November 23, our shared service took another turn. Golden West Electric in Weebo, Montana decided to join this shared service between the 2 co-ops to make 3. So Lower Yellowstone, Mid Yellowstone, and Golden West have worked together on storm jobs, cybersecurity, purchasing, and a number of other projects over the past 4 years. So it's not like we hadn't done stuff together. And this goes back to that, that cooperation among cooperatives that I talk about a lot. That synergy between Lower and Mid will now expand to Golden West and allow the amazing team you've seen here, and you heard some of the employees tonight from Mid Yellowstone are here, to work together to serve all 3 of the memberships. Working together is how we will fulfill our mission statements and principles for each co-op and membership. This commitment to the vision is also carried through in the communities that we serve. And here at Lower Yellowstone, our Operation Roundup program is one of the ways working together makes our communities thrive. I would like to take a moment to thank that Operation Roundup Board of Directors for making this program possible. And if you are here, would you please stand? Thank you. Greg, I need this. Over the years, we have gotten to see how successful this program is when the members work together to support education programs, youth services, and other community-related activities through this Operation Roundup. We are all part of the guiding principles as cooperative members. So in closing, I want to thank the membership for supporting the cooperative board and staff and I am honored to be part of this cooperative team. We work very hard to ensure that our members are served at the highest level possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and the staff for making all this work so well together. It's a big job, and they make it look easy. So, Lena was really getting tired of Ole coming in the front door of the house and with his muddy boots and his dirty clothes out of the garage and out of the barn, and she just had enough. So she hired Lars down the road to come and build a porch on the front of the house, and he built this big porch, and she gave Ole instructions that when he comes in, he's to take his dirty clothes and boots and stuff off and leave them out there. Well, that worked fine, except that the porch needed to be painted. And so she kept ragging on him a little every day you gotta paint that porch. You gotta get that porch painted. You know, winter's gonna be coming and the porch won't be painted. So he didn't want to do it, of course, and so he puts a sign out on the front lawn saying that he would pay somebody to paint his porch. Well, sure enough, next day a young man shows up. Knocks on the door, comes in, said, "Yeah, I'll paint your porch, and I'll do your painting." And so Ole said, "Well, what are you going to charge me?" And he said, "Oh, how about $50?" Oh, he thought, "Yeah, that ain't too bad a deal." So, "Yeah, go ahead." So he hands him a can of paint and brush and roller and whatever. And the guy goes outside, and later in the day, another knock on the door, and the young man's coming back in, and he said, "I'm done. You got your..." And he said, "Oh yeah, you got it painted?" Yeah. He said, "Well, in a couple of days or after that dries, we might have to get that another coat. Would you be willing to do that?" And the young man said, "Well, yeah, I could come back in a couple of days and do that." But he said, "By the way, that's not a Porsche, it's a Mercedes." I'd like to begin my president's report with the financials. Brenner and Avert just completed the audit and gave an unmodified opinion, which means the co-op's financials and accounting measures meet or exceed the recommended practices. Our total assets are over $100.1 million. Our long-term debt is $45.6 million. And our margins in 2023 were at $4.9 million. The financial balance sheet is in your program with the details. Later this year, we're going to assess our financial condition and determine the amount of capital credits we're able to retire, and you will receive those as a bill credit on your December bill. Jason commented on our growth in his report. Obviously, growth has challenges because we need the infrastructure to be in place to serve it and still sustain the reliability that we deserve and are accustomed to. But that's what we're here for. And the blessing of that is that the added loads provide stability in our organization. Of course, when we grow, we need more power. And on the power supply side of things, we're fortunate to have our contract with Upper Missouri Power Cooperative, and they provide our allocation of power from the Western Area Power Administration that comes from the hydroelectric dams, and they supplement the rest with power from Basin Electric Power Cooperative. As our WAPA allocation is a fixed amount, all of the growth has to come from Basin Electric. It's a pleasure to work with Basin as they prepare for future growth in our area cooperatives and in changing times we are living in. The 11 Upper Missouri cooperatives are Basin's largest member. Todd Brickhouse, Basin's new CEO, has really stepped up to the challenges and has adapted very quickly. Since extra large loads in the Bakken have popped up rather unexpectedly, Basin has had to react quickly with new generation under construction and a lot more in the accelerated planning stages, including a $2 billion power plant that'll be located in the Williston Basin. And speaking of reliability, you've probably seen on the news where the government keeps changing the rules on power plant emissions, which, if the technology to do that is created, will be very expensive and it will use a lot of power just to operate it. Their goal is to shut the coal and natural gas generation plants down. But their plans don't include providing the backup generation to keep the lights on when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine, and renewable energy just can't keep up. But the problems don't stop there. WAPA supplies the power that comes from these hydroelectric dams, such as Fort Peck and Garrison, as well as other dams on the Missouri River. These dams were built decades ago, and WAPA is in the midst of upgrading these dams and the generators and the spillways and everything that goes with it. And of course, this is a huge work plan, and it's going to take time and money, but safety and reliability, of course, are the key. Well, in the midst of that, you may have heard that the Biden administration had cut a deal with the western states' legislators to totally take the Snake River dams out so the fish can swim upstream. This would remove the hydroelectric power generation that those co-ops in the west of us depend on. And you can only imagine that if they accomplish that, our dams here are their next target. The ironic part of this to me is that, of course, hydroelectric energy is the purest form of renewable energy that there is. The Montana Electric Cooperatives Association has been working with legislators on this issue, and they need help. Their grassroots group, of which some of you here belong, and some of you have signed up tonight, is pressuring Congress to intervene. We have a gentleman here that is in the middle of this battle, and I'm going to invite Mark Lambrecht, the Director of Government Relations of the Montana Electric Cooperative Association, to give us a quick update on that. So, Mark?
Thank you, Alan. Hi, everybody. Talked to most of you out in the hallway. Appreciate you all signing up. Just wanted to follow the great joke that Alan had. Maybe mine's not quite as good, but just wanted to say, people are usually shocked to find out that I'm not a very good electrician. Ka-ting-ting. So as I said out in the hallway, so I do government affairs for the statewide association. Lower Yellowstone, Mid Yellowstone, Golden West are all among the 25 member cooperatives for the Montana Electric Cooperatives Association. I do government affairs for the organization, which means I'm in Helena, up at the Capitol every session and interim. I go back to Washington, D.C. with Dennis Nelson quite a bit, lobbying in Washington, D.C., working on legislation there. And that's all on behalf of you as members. Our focus there is to ensure reliable, affordable, safe power for all of our members, and that job's getting tougher and tougher all the time, as Alan alluded to. So I wanted to talk about why we have this grassroots network that I've asked you to sign up for and how it's used. So we've got a couple thousand now co-op members from around the state of Montana, and I'll send out emails to them from time to time informing them about something that is really important that's going on in Washington, D.C., Warren Helena, and then ask you to forward a message on to, say, the state legislature, the governor, members of Congress, or even the White House. It can be very effective. Just last week, we sent one out on the power plant rules that Alan talked about. These are from the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. There were 4 rules designed to basically shut down coal and natural gas electricity generation. They are even more specifically targeted at shutting down Colstrip, which is, of course, an incredibly important source of baseload electricity generation here in the West. Under a couple of different hearings in the House and the Senate, Representative Zinke, our representative on the West side, grilled the EPA administrator about this rule's impact on Colstrip, and the administrator actually said in the hearing that Colstrip was cheating the system. That was a direct quote, even though Colstrip has been in compliance with state and federal standards for more than 12 years. So think about that. So anyway, we asked our grassroots network to consider those rules and send on a message to the members of Congress, because there's an effort underway under the Congressional Review Act. This is a way that Congress, within 60 days of the final rule being issued, that Congress can put its foot down and say, hold on, agency, you got to stop, back up, and redo this. So we're asking members of Congress to support that effort under the Congressional Review Act. The other recent time we used this was with the Lower Snake River dams that Alan also talked about. This was a secretive agreement that was developed between the White House and what are called the 6 sovereigns. It's the states of Oregon and Washington and 4 Pacific Northwest tribal nations, that their goal is to fundamentally change the way the Lower Snake River dams are operated to make them less valuable for producing power and designed specifically for moving salmon and steelhead. And this was all part of a secretive settlement agreement to settle some ongoing litigation. It was agreed to on December 15th. But here's the thing that Mecca just learned out in the last couple of weeks. So the agreement is supposed to require congressional approval for any fundamental changes in the way that the dams are operated or any decisions on whether to breach them, which is the ultimate goal of the agreement. So our communications director, Ryan Hall, secured a private tour of 2 of the Lower Snake River dams a couple of weeks ago, right at the end of May, and interviewed the people who were operating the dams. And he learned for a fact that the operational changes are already underway. Most of the water coming through that Columbia River system and through 2 of the Snake River dams is being spilled. Only 1 generating unit is being used at this time, one of the 6 at each of those dams. They each have 6 generating units. So that should have required congressional approval. They're doing it without it. And this is designed to prove that we don't need these dams. That's their goal. So we might as well breach them. The second part of it is transferring hundreds of millions of dollars to create a new entity controlled by the 6 sovereigns that will develop replacement power, wind and solar, to replace that clean, affordable, carbon-free hydroelectricity that's baseload generation that actually allows wind and solar to become part of the grid. Makes no sense whatsoever. The other thing that we're concerned about is it transfers decision-making authority over fish and wildlife management decisions away from the federal government and moves it over to these 6 sovereigns. You all of the co-op members that are part of the Bonneville Power Administration, I guess that doesn't apply here, have spent $16 billion over the past decades on fish mitigation. All of that investment goes away, and those decisions on how to spend that money going forward go to these 6 sovereigns. And so Alan said, that's the first target. We're probably looking at the Wappa dams later. So I'm concerned about that. But anyway, back to the grassroots. More than 2,000 Montanans signed a petition that was delivered to the White House about this issue. That was more than the state of Oregon, state of California, state of Idaho. So Montanans are making a difference. And I can tell you what, we know that message got to the White House, and we know that it was paid attention to by Montana senator, Senator Tester particularly, called up the White House on 2 occasions and had really tough conversations with the administration about that issue. Unfortunately, they decided to move forward with it, but we're not dead yet. There is ongoing litigation, and we just really need to keep the pressure on. But those are just a quick snapshot of some of the things that we're working on with you. And I would encourage you to, if you didn't already, sign up. Please catch me out in the hallway again and sign up. And a few times a year, I will email you about these important issues like the power plant rules or the hydroelectric dams, things like that, or key issues that are going on in Helena. And so really appreciate the opportunity to keep you informed as a member. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. And hope you have a great rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We appreciate all your hard work, and working in politics every day has to be a bit of a frustrating strain, I can imagine. As Jason mentioned, another situation that has been beneficial to our co-op is the shared services program that we embarked on about 8 years ago. And with the technology that's available nowadays, it's very beneficial to share everything from the expertise of employees at each co-op, as well as equipment and the inventory. So we now share even management on a contract basis with the other 2 co-ops that he mentioned, Mid-Yellowstone at Hysham and just lately Golden West and Webo. And so these efficiencies are going to benefit us all, and it's really neat to see that happening, because 20 years ago, without the technology we got now, it just couldn't happen. But a lot of people, you can have somebody working in one office of one co-op and doing the work of the other one upstream, just online, just as easy as not. So, and the staff has been great to do that. So, as to our future at Lower Yellowstone, the board and the staff are continually working to provide dependable service, accommodate our growth, as well as reviewing and upgrading our policies and participating in periodic strategic planning. The bottom line is that things are good. We have a good management and staff. We're in sound financial condition, and we're ready to meet the future. And we'll meet the challenges, keep the faith. But in conclusion, I'd like to share some advice that was shared to me from the group of over 90-year-old coffee club here in Sydney. And they had a group that met every morning down here. You had to be 90 to get in, but once in a while they'd let me come in and ask questions. But I asked them one time for some advice on that I could share, and there were a lot of things that came up, of course, but the one that really caught my attention kind of reminded me of what my mom used to tell me. Said, be sure and make your bed right away when you get up in the morning, and the rest of your day will go right. So. Jessie Veeder has been a symbol of folk music in western North Dakota since she released her first original album when she was only 16 years old. It was an effort that took her from performing at fairs and festivals around her home state to launching a music and writing career that has her telling the story of rural living through the captivating lens of a woman who lives it every day. Since 2010, Jessie and her husband Chad have worked alongside her father as the 4th-generation stewards of the Veeder Ranch, where she chronicles life on the land as a weekly columnist for statewide newspapers and on her popular blog and podcast titled Meanwhile Back at the Ranch. So please help me welcome Jessie Veeder.
Well, good evening. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I blew in with the wind, and I'm going to talk about weather and ranching and motherhood, and I'm going to keep it real serious by starting off with a request that Jamie had for telling an embarrassing story about how I went sliding down a gumbo hill. So here we go. We moved back to my family's ranch about 12, 13, 14, 100 years ago. I don't know what's time anymore when you have two little kids. But I was so excited to be back at the place that raised me because it was a place that I was so proud of. And I was about 27 years old when my husband and I moved into the little house where my dad was raised. And it made me wonder where we had all of our Christmas dinners, how we all fit in that tiny little house when I couldn't fit my shoe collection and my two dogs when I was an adult. So I remember being told, I didn't quite know what I was going to do when we moved back home. I was a touring musician, had just graduated college and had just gotten married. And when I left Watford City in 2001 at 17 years old, no one was coming back to our hometowns because we were all told to go get an education and that there wasn't so much work here for us. And no one was going to hire me at the bank because I have the math skills of a 7-year-old. And I just didn't quite know what was going on with our community right at the height of the boom. So I was told to just Chad was working in the oil industry, my husband, and he told me just hang out for a second, keep writing and do the things that you loved to do when you were a kid. And so naturally, one of those things I thought would be a good idea in the middle of a thunderstorm was for him and I to go slide down a gumbo hill like I used to do when I was 12 years old. So that's what this story is. And it's out of my book, Coming Home, and I would read it. This is a long time ago. I would read it, but the print is too small for me now because, time goes by fast, doesn't it? Anyway, so it rained like hell last night at the ranch. After a sweltering hot and humid day, the dark clouds began to roll in over the horizon, and we all scrambled to fulfill our outdoor plans before closing the doors and pressing our foreheads to the glass to see what the storm had in store for us. And what it had in store, it turned out, was like nothing I've seen in August around here. And it could have been the kinetic energy swirling around in the air from the lightning show, making my hair stand on end, or it could have just been the utter amazement at the amount of water gushing from the sky. But something in me woke up that night. After the heavy rain had passed, already dressed for bed and ready to settle in for the night, my husband and I stood out on the front porch and listened as the water rushed in small rivers around us. And then slowly, and without discussion, we both took a couple steps off the porch together, following the sound of the rushing rainwater forming in streams and waterfalls in the barnyard. And soon we were down in the horse corral, splashing and frolicking nearly knee-deep in a river that had spontaneously appeared before us. It was refreshing and freeing and magical and romantic and adventurous. So I stopped dead in my tracks and I turned to my husband and I said, "Let's go slide down the gumbo hill." And he paused for a second, as if to make sure I was still the girl he married before turning around to make a break for the nearest butte, which was sticking out like a big, beautiful wart on the landscape outside the fence. Now, we're in a country where I don't have to explain what a butte is, so I appreciate that. Out in Fargo, we have to explain gumbo. It's on my car out there if you want to see it for yourself. So I followed happily, jumping over the rocks, slipping on the slick mud, crawling on my hands and knees, clawing at the soaked earth, and throwing off my flip-flops and sweatshirt. This is something we used to do as kids. A little rain turns those hard cactus and rock-laced buttes out here into a sloppy, slippery, sticky heaven. So after a big storm, we would venture out to the nearest gumbo hill to make mud pies and sling the slimy concoction at one another, and with half the terrain stuck on our little bodies, we would take turns sliding down on our butts. That night, I thought we might relive that memory together, the two of us all grown up now. So in the dark of the storm, in my short shorts and pajama top, I found myself on the top of the nearest tallest butte, standing hand in hand with my husband in the rain, looking down on what was sure to be pure joy, just as I remembered. It turns out what I did not remember was all the jagged rocks that make their homes on the surface of the buttes, protecting the smooth clay underneath. The cactuses also seemed to slip my mind, as did the sharp grasses waiting at the bottom. Oh, and the fact that I should have probably put on some pants for this. Yeah. But we were committed now, so down went my husband off the cliff and into the dark, surfing on his feet, arms out to balance his weight. He was catching air, spinning around, gaining speed rapidly, and landing a triple axel in a puddle at the bottom. I clutched my hands to my chest at the top, waiting to hear a sign of life, a cry, a scream, a wail of agony. Anything? Woohoo! The thrilling sound bounced off of each hill and made its way up to me through the dark sheets of rain. All was well. It must have been as fun as I remembered. So I took my first step toward adventure. My foot slid down. Unsteady, it broke away from the other leg, which was planted firmly on the ground above. I found myself in the splits, and I had not stretched for this, but it was only for a moment. My planted leg unplanted and sent me swirling sideways toward the ravine that joined the butte together with his neighbor. Okay. I wanted to start out in control. I wanted to take my husband's already plowed trail. I mustered the strength to correct my path and squatted down on my feet, taking a cue from my husband's demonstration. But let's face it, I wasn't born with the athleticism required to survive this. It was too late. I slid for 5 seconds that way and quickly fell to my butt, where my shorty shorts, along with my granny panties, promptly made their way up my crack as I gained speed, now on my bare ass down an uncharted track of grass and rocks and cactus, cutting out a nice wide swath with my cheeks. My squeals of delight quickly turned to screams of agony as I put my arms out to try to slow myself while I flew through the patch of vegetation along the bottom of the butte at speeds of what I'm guessing to be at least 25 miles an hour. Now my hands were tearing through the tall grass and cactus as the skin of my precious white tush was being ripped to shreds by the crust of God's green earth. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I slid to a stop at my husband's feet, and it was silent. I looked up from the bloody, mangled, muddy heap that was my body, legs sprawled, arms tangled. Am I dead? My throbbing ass cheeks indicated probably not. And so did the laughter coming from my belly and out my mouth and up to the face of the swamp man that was leaning over me. He reached out his muddy hand and hoisted his soggy, whimpering wife to her feet. And I told him, I didn't remember this hurting as much when I was 10. And then he said, maybe you should have put on some pants. There we go. So there you go, Jamie. So I was recently in Nashville recording, I think it was my 4th or 5th original album, and the older I get, the more I realize how we have such an important story to tell out here in rural America. And when I was younger, back when I was sliding down Gumbo Hills, I see that hill and it just hurts my ass just thinking about it, just looking at it. I'll never do that again. But I was traveling singing for my supper as a young musician right out of high school. I did my first album when I was only 16 years old. And of course I traveled up and down the Midwest in my Chevy Lumina, a kid who had never really driven in any cities besides Williston with its 7 stoplights at the time. And I remember bringing my little sister to her orthodontist appointment in my Ford LTD 1983 car named Rosie. And in order to avoid the stoplights, I just drove through parking lots. But here I was driving up and down the Midwest talking about North Dakota and why I loved it so much with this weird sort of Canadian accent. And what people thought was interesting about me is not what I thought they would think was interesting about me, but it was because it was where I was from. And it sort of continues to be that way as I travel through my life as a musician and a storyteller. People wanted to know, especially when I moved back to my family's ranch in the height of the boom, what it was really like to be out here. And so I kind of harnessed that energy of storytelling, and I've been doing it as a job my entire life since I was just a kid. But I took this song to Nashville, and it's one of my newest ones off of my album, Yellow Roses, and I'm going to share some of those songs with you tonight. I think this one is really important for an evening like this because it was written in during one of the worst snowstorms I have ever seen and this area has ever seen. I think it was 2 years ago during Easter. We got mountains upon mountains of snow during calving season after a long time of drought-like weather that made us think that maybe we were going to have to sell a lot of our herd. And at that time, my 2 young daughters, I think they were 4 and 6, and we were facing, of course, just kind of unprecedented weather that was going to potentially break the drought cycle, but it also meant that we were bringing baby calves into my beautiful entryway, one that I envisioned more like a Martha Stewart type situation, not like a calf barn, but that's where we were at, and that's ranch life. And we had 6 of calves in my entryway at one point. And my daughters had a quick lesson in what it looked like to kind of face life and death on the ranch. And really, we had one of those calves die right in front of their eyes as we were trying to rub them down and get them healthy. But they were calling us from all over the country then, because I write a lot about rural living and ranch life, and they wanted us as ranchers, or connect ranchers to the media, to tell them that how we were suffering. They wanted the dramatic story. And really what we were holding on to is what I've always said about this part of the country: nothing's black and white. What's happening with the weather that we can't control is something that was going to bless us with full dams and green grass in the springtime, but also going to challenge us with these calves being born in snowbanks. And so none of my rancher friends wanted to talk to the news. And so I told my husband, well, you gotta maybe take a shower or at least comb your hair. I'm gonna hook you up to Zoom and you're gonna be on the news tonight. And I heard him talking to the newspaper, he was on TV that night, about the situation we found ourselves in. And there was a picture that my dad had taken out of the tractor of the cows pushing snow up to their chests. And they wanted to say, they asked him how the calf crop, what is it gonna look like? How are your losses? Aren't you just devastated? And my husband said, well, out here, you can't choose where you take your blessings, and when they come, you just take them when you get them. And I thought, well, that would be a good line to a song. And so I sat down and wrote this. This is called Baby Blue. This is a true blue ranching song with some superstition in it. Just like ranchers like. When the creek dries up and the sun sets hot and it hasn't rained since last September, when the spring rolls in on the back of the wind, instead of snow you have fire in December. Oh, my baby blue, just turn off the news. I've had my share of disappointments for one day. If you need me now, I'll be out checking cows and calculating pasture to hay. Well, I heard him say when he was our age, he loaded it all back up in the trailer, as his daddy was dying like a dream before his eyes. No, not even a son can be a savior. Oh, my baby blue, have you heard the news? Without the rain, this could be over. If you need me tonight, I'll be praying by moonlight and throwing salt over my shoulder. Oh, oh, oh. This is my father's place, and his father's place, and his father's place that came before him. How he ended up here is blood, sweat, and years of throwing pennies at the debt of all of our sins. Oh, oh, oh. Now you should see it here. This is gratitude and fear, how the April storms came to pack the snow in. Get the tractors out, this should end the drought. Just don't say it too loud, we could be dreaming. Oh, my baby blue, the news is calling you. They wanna know if you think the Cavs will make it. You say, listen close, we have held up hope. You can't choose your blessings, you just take them. Thank you. If you think about that, the next weekend we had more rain and some ice, and we had a whole day without power, and our neighbors and you all were out there trying to fix it for us, and I don't take that lightly. I think about you all in the weather. My father-in-law was a lineman, and so I think about these guys out here working hard trying to get power back to us. We don't take those things for granted. Being a fourth generation kid on a ranch raising the fifth generation, you're surrounded by these stories that of the people that came before you, the little relics that they leave behind. And driving across the Midwest and across the state, you see where these homesteads had failed or been overtaken, or maybe the ones that really have really prospered, and you can see it behind the lilac bushes, or some of the old foundation, or the barns that are falling down, and then the little new houses that are popping up along the interstate and the back roads. And I just love the stories that are held within those sacred places. And you know, that's why I love to be a songwriter and a storyteller in the middle of nowhere, because it's the middle of everything, and the work that you all do for us to get power and to keep the lights on so that we can live in these places comfortably. I think about my great-grandma Gudrun and my great-grandma Cornelia, who are raising kids, more kids than me, with no chicken nuggets, man, and no Amazon Prime. So this is a song that I wrote. It's a title track off of my newest album, Yellow Roses, and I'll tell you just a quick story about it, and maybe some of you can relate. This is actually one of my really true blue folk songs, a song that tells a story. It tells the story of my great-grandpa Eddie's life, my grandpa who homesteaded the place, the Vita Ranch, when he was really, really a young boy. He homesteaded his father's place when he was only 14 years old, and then when he was old enough to stake a claim on the place and where we are now living, he did so. And married his wife after he came home from the war. Her name was Cornelia, and they raised 5 children. The youngest was my grandpa Pete, my dad's dad. And we have that barn that they built 90 years ago. I think they actually hauled it in as they did back then. They would move a lot of buildings like crazy, but we still have that old barn there. And in the barnyard, Cornelia died when she was only 36 years old, leaving behind her kids for her husband Eddie to raise. And she had planted a garden. Of course, those lilac bushes still bloom there in the barnyard. And she planted yellow roses, and those yellow roses still bloom in the barnyard where we hold our horses and our bottle calves and our feed cattle. 90 years later, 100 years later, they still bloom, and I think it's such a symbol of resilience for the people in rural America that we just keep crawling up and trying harder and holding on and doing what it takes to make it work. Those yellow roses in June, despite the neglect, despite the cocklebur plants growing around them, are still there. So this is Grandpa Eddie's story and Cornelia's story. This is called Yellow Roses. The thing about getting older and writing all these lyrics is just because you write them doesn't mean you can remember them, so wish me luck. 14 and 80 acres, a couple horses and 2 hands, grind the gears and swing the hammer, turn a boy into a man. His daddy was near blind then, his brother just 13. His mom, she swept the floors, but dirt like that just won't come clean. Only North Dakota could make promises like this. Bring with you all your hope, here, see what she can do with it. He built corrals and fences, the family's homestead up in time. Rode the rivers and the big draws with the cowboys for a dime. But there's something about the work here made him want some of his own. Signed papers on tar paper shacks and called the land his home. Only North Dakota could make promises like this. Bring with you all your hope, here, see what she can do with it. Only North Dakota, where the ground turns white to green. The rain, the sun, the storms that blow in like you've never seen. And there we could have left it, his dreams sprouting from the ground. But if man can build a fortress, only man can knock it down. And when the war was over, he found himself a bride. Yellow roses in the garden, and their children were her pride. He lost some on the cattle, and he lost some on the grains. He lost her when she went to sleep and did not wake again. Only North Dakota could make promises like this. Bring with you all your hope, here, see what she can do with it. Only North Dakota, where the ground turns white to green. The rain, the snow, the storms that blow in like you've never seen. But a man cannot give up here. He didn't have the mind. He made biscuits in the morning and taught all the babes to ride. When the neighbors fell on hard times, he lent a hand or bought them out, and watered yellow roses in the heat of summer drought. Now I stand here with my children, when on my hip one holds my hand. Another generation breathing life into this land. We count pennies and our blessings, and to the memories we cling. And down in the barnyard, yellow roses bloom here every spring. Only North Dakota could make promises like this. Bring with you all your hope, here, see what she can do with it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. It's such a gift to be able to travel around and tell our story and share it with you this evening, especially in a room full of people who know where we're all coming from. And just grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to leave you with a song that was inspired by my great-grandma Gudrun and a fight, an ongoing argument that I have with my husband about landscaping. He's a carpenter and a rancher, so you can imagine all the unfinished projects we have happening at any given time on our place. And you can imagine that a rancher's number one priority is not my well-kept lawn, or the fact that we have just scoria mud in the driveway. And so I take it upon myself to be the landscaper in the family. And so when I had my first daughter for Mother's Day, I got myself a riding lawnmower. And you know what the best chore is when you're a mom? It's to be on that damn riding lawnmower. And I'll tell you why. Because guys, you had it figured out before us, but women, we're catching up. You get on that lawnmower, no one can find you, no one can talk to you. I can't hear you. What do you need, macaroni? I don't know what you're saying. I am over here mowing the lawn, and I'm mowing the neighbor's lawn, I'm mowing the ditches. I am mowing to Sydney, Montana. I will be out for 3 to 5 business days. When that 8-year-old lawnmower was on life support, what did I get for Mother's Day this year? Another lawnmower, looks exactly the same, parked by the dead one. It's gonna be there for, I don't know, 75 years like the other ones in the old junk pile. Anyway, my husband and I were having an argument about landscaping, and I said, well, why don't you just give me the bobcat and I'll do it myself? And he said, girl, I've seen you mow the lawn. He may have had to pull me out at several occasions of ditches and drainage field, because I just want to mow everything. And we have, we live in the Badlands, so you don't have a large lawn, but I try to make it so. Anyway, he said, no, you can't drive the bobcat. He said, I'll have to pull you out from being tipped over in a coulee somewhere. And we had the similar argument about the chainsaw. We have all these trees and we chased cows, and I was sick of getting hung up in the trees, so I was going to cut myself some trails. And I said, just teach me how to use a chainsaw. And he said, absolutely not. He's known me since I was 12 years old, so it's not like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But he said, I give you that chainsaw, you'll be the only woman who will figure out how to cut her own damn head off. And it's not like he's wrong. I mean, you heard the gumbo sliding story, but still. So I went and got myself a battery-operated chainsaw. He uses all his DeWalt batteries. He loves it. My vacuum is also retrofitted for the DeWalt battery. So I was thinking of Great-Grandma Gudrun when we were having the argument about the scoria and we needed better driveway material. And I thought, well, what did Great-Grandma Gudrun do? She came over from Norway when she was only 16 years old on a ship, all by herself. And she came from Ellis Island to Minnesota. A lot of this is familiar to some of you. Met her husband in Minnesota. They drove their wagons all the way to the middle of nowhere on the edge of the Badlands, western North Dakota, and she raised 12 children without Amazon Prime, as I mentioned before, without a deep freeze, as I mentioned before, without an SUV playing Frozen on a continuous cycle on the DVD player in the back like before. So I think about her when my kids are driving me crazy or when I'm stuck in the ditch, and that's the only memory my daughters will ever have of me is when my husband's had to pull me out of the ditch in our yard, but I saved that for another day. If she could do it, I can certainly do it. We can certainly do it. And of course, thanks to modern technology and rural power. So I went out and I did what any reasonable woman would do, is I picked up the shovel and started working and doing it myself to see how long it would take my husband to help me. Turns out he was undeterred. And it rained a little, and so I stayed out there about 15 minutes, long enough to write this song. This is called Work Girl, but this is for you guys too, and all of you doing the good work out here in rural America. Thank you for having me, and I'll send you off with this little anthem. Now work girl, show me your muscles. Work girl, pull back your hair. Work girl, the day is long. Work ain't going nowhere. Picking rocks and raising babies, pennies, heads up on the street, muddy boots and no complaining, gotta keep shoes on their feet. Might be born to be a sinner, might be born to be a saint, might be born to save each other, weren't born with money in the bank. So work girl, show me your muscles. Work girl, pull back your hair. Work girl, the day is long. Work ain't going nowhere. When I fall, I get back up. Taught myself to drive this truck. Greens, it shines on all this dirt. Pull on your pants, girl, get to work. We can't be raised to wait for the day someone show us what's right. Car is broke, oh, girl, you fix it. Can't fix it, go get your bite. Trees need trim and get the chainsaw. Gardens planted, horses fed. Monday comes, you button up, girl, 9 to 5 and 5 till bed. Now work girl, show me your muscles. Work girl, pull back your hair. Work girl, the day is long. Work ain't going nowhere. When I fall, I get back up. Taught myself to drive this truck. Rains, it shines on all this dirt. Pull on your pants, girl, get to work. He can lift it, you can push it. Thinks he knows, well, so do you. Get some wire and make the lights work. Climb that ladder, get the tools. So work girl, show me your muscles. Work girl, pull back your hair. Work girl, the day is long. Work ain't going nowhere. Now work girl, don't wait for no man. Can't do it, you can't work girl. saw, nail, and grind. Work, go build you a life. Now work, girl, the clock is ticking. Go cut a path. You hear them talking. Work, girl, go kick some. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. That was great. It's fun to hear where songs come from originally and the ideas behind them, and a nice performance. Jesse's got roots in the co-op family that go way back. Back in the 1980s, when I first got on the board here at Lower Yellowstone, I went to a meeting at Upper Missouri downtown, and the chairman of the board at that time was a gentleman named Leroy Veeder. And so I had to ask, and yes, it's a cousin of her dad's, so she's got co-op roots that go back quite a ways. At this time, I'm going to ask Gene to come up again and give the election results here.
Jesse, it's not really fair to follow you because I can neither be as funny nor musical, but reporting on the director election, the nominating committee met in March of this year. The nominating committee was Bob Albin, Mike Chose, Ben Larson, and Scott Greenwood. This year, the committee nominated one candidate for each district. There were no other nominations. So by acclamation of election, Jim Vitt for District 1 and Colin Gartner for District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim and Colin, for congratulations again. Is there any unfinished or new business anybody has in mind? Can't see you very good. Not seeing any. I'll call on Jamie, and she's going to do the scholarships, I think.
Good evening. Well, I'm glad I'm not telling any jokes. I'm just glad I made it up on the stage without tripping, so that's the good part. So as you guys know, Lower Yellowstone's been giving scholarship awards away for many years during their annual meeting. This year, the applicants were asked to submit a short video answering the following questions. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? How would you use your power? And what would be a disadvantage of your superpower? The applicants were also asked to either dress like their superhero or sketch a picture of their superhero. We wanted to show them, but we didn't want to spend too much time on that. So I'm just going to go ahead and announce the winners. If you guys are here, I've seen a couple scholarship winners. Please stand up, and then at the end of the meeting, if you can just come up, we'll grab a quick picture of you too. So, first one, Adriana Byerly, Bailey Schlotthauer, Bree Mullen, Chloe Eide, Dalton Bushard, Dre Nelson, Ellen Norby, Lauren Chose, Lexi Morlock, Parvina Ashanklava, Seth Byerly, and Taylor McPherson. Thank you. Congratulations to all of you guys.
Colin's going to announce some prizes.
Congratulations again to the scholarship winners. I'm going to announce a couple of the prize winners in a minute, but before I do, I would like to let you in on one of the benefits of being a cooperative member. As a Lower Yellowstone Electric cooperative member, you can get a 15% off several attractions in Medora and on lodging by using a special code. If you plan to visit Medora this summer, don't forget to use the code TOUCH2024 when making your reservations or purchasing tickets. And I would like to ask the winners of the Medora musical tickets to please come to the stage after the meeting to receive the tickets and get a photo. And also the winners of the bikes, I would ask the two winners to come up to the stage after the meeting for a photo also. Okay, the winners of the Medora package, and the package are 2 tickets to the Medora musical. So the Medora winners are Sherry Daniels, Caitlin Dennison, and Casey Teal. Okay, congratulations. And the bike winners, the winner of the girls' bike is Navy Conlon. And the boys' bike winner is Elijah Albertson. Okay, congratulations. And remember to come up to the stage after the meeting is over for pictures. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Now we're going to do the drawing for the grassroots campaign.
Hi again. How would you like to do the blind drawing?
Sure.
Okay. Got them good and mixed up. Got one? Several. Okay. Thank you, Colin. The lucky winner is 059112. 059112. Can't see you.
I see we have one special guest here tonight that didn't sign up on the list or whatever, but DeLon Anderson from Upper Missouri Power Cooperative is here with us as well tonight, so thank you. If you have additional questions, email them to lyrec@lyrec.coop, lyrec@lyrec.coop. And all the questions and answers along with the video of the meeting will be available. Thank you all for helping us make this meeting happen and be a nice night and for everybody to show up. And at this time, I'll declare the meeting adjourned, but I need the board to come up front, please.